welcome everyone. Not so many people in here, especially because we have a customer presentation right now, and maybe you are irritated because of it's just Maria on the slide, but obviously I was not part of the project. So I'm also quite curious to know what you have done with test management inside of Cloud ALM. So welcome on stage, Maria.
Thank you. So I'm here today to show our end-user experience. So my experience as a test manager on our project, and I will swiftly jump to this one, and the specific use case of Cloud ALM in our project. So first one, just to get hang of this, overview about our project and BizLink in general. One slider here. So our logo is where possibilities connect. So BizLink is a manufacturing group, worldwide presence with over 40 locations. Many of them were gained throughout the time with many acquisitions. This also means that we bring in new companies into the group that already have existing ERP systems. So you can imagine different use cases. What we do is B2B. So our customers are basically other manufacturing companies that produce products that are sold to end customers, and these would be home appliances, automotive industry, medical industry, so up to AI data centers. So whenever and wherever there is a connection, and these can be found in different industries, we are typically there. What you can see is because of this global presence, one of the factors that's always contributing to complexity in a project is multicultural presence, language barriers, and this was also the case for us in this specific project that we are talking about today, where we started first time to use Cloud ALM. So the project I'm talking about for S/4HANA was for 4 locations, so 2 in Germany, 2 in Slovakia, so European production facilities. Project length, 2 years. We partnered with NTT Data for implementation of S/4HANA. Overall, more than 120 project members. 50 roughly of them are consultants, either internal or external. Go live is scheduled for January now, and we had in the project, which is relevant for our Cloud ALM story, 66 business users as testers. Now, our approach was selective data transition, so shell conversion to private cloud, and we used as tools SharePoint, which was brought by NTT Data, but also Cloud ALM. Now, this was here in play with Timo, so Timo and I still work as test managers on this project, and this was the first recommendation, yes, so we should go with Cloud ALM, definitely, but we as a customer knew nothing of the tool, obviously, so here is ALM experience coming to play, and Timo wanted to suggest even more use of Cloud ALM, but in the end, we decided to go with test management and defect handling only, with the ambition that for our next rollout projects, we actually now extend the use. So this is the aim.
Now we know how the setup was regarding your project. And NTT helped you a lot with this project, so I'm quite happy to have you as partner. When we focus now a little bit more on test management, I think the start is always a little bit more or less complicated. So what have you done to start with test management? How you have prepared the test cases? Where does the test cases come from? And how you have reused them during the different phases?
Yeah. Start was the hardest, for me personally as well, because We were tasked as test managers, so we knew the general description of the role, what we should do. But the start was how to scope, what we should test, what's the best way to test in order to have risk-free go live, yeah? And still you need to take into account that you are taking from time of your business users who normally have their daily work. So we got stuck for first maybe 2-3 months until we found the proper way. So we started we tried actually using SAP best practice accelerators, test cases. However, because of this restriction that you have one test case you can assign to one tester, when our business users looked at the best practice test case, they were overwhelmed because typically they come with the prerequisites, master data, which are quite useful for your internal consultants, for instance, getting to know S/4HANA, for me as well. But for our business user, it came with a lot of data authorizations. They don't have a clue about the roles, what configuration specs you need in the background, and so on. So they came, and on top, as a third factor, they saw Fiori apps. So the whole setup is based on the Fiori app, which was, their comment was, I don't know how this looks like, so how can I test this? So we switched the approach. We tried also with reusing all Excels, but they simply did not have sufficient level of data to be either mass or single uploaded to Cloud ALM. So there were simple lists of transactions, not sufficient data, what and how to test. So we found the middle way. We came back to SAP Signavio, and we decided to spend 3 months on actually modeling our current as-is processes in ECC. And so this took 3 months, and immediately we started also modeling what we already knew will be greenfield topics, so 2B processes like we knew credit limit functionalities new in S/4HANA, or how you create now a business partner, and so on. So these were also modeled in Signavio. And from last December, connector between Signavio and Cloud ALM was available, so we used this then, and we could say that 90% of our test cases were, in the end, based on SAP Signavio business process diagrams. And this was a happy solution in the end for us. What we had to account for, coming back to the question, how do you make your test cases relevant, is especially in a project that lasts for more than 1 year, things change, requirements changed, 2B processes undergo some changes. So maintaining this loop and life cycle so that it's not only a one-off job, so Signavio and then test cases in Cloud ALM, it's something you need to maintain until go live and potentially even after, yeah? So this is something that was not so easy, but we found a way how it works. This was for business processes that were one major topic for us. And then data management. So this was a special topic with completely different, coming from completely different angle. Here, what we found working for us was if you bring structure from the very beginning, then it becomes easier, and it's definitely something you can also bring to Cloud ALM. And we had to decide, data migration and validating and testing, do we do it completely outside or we bring it to Cloud ALM? And we decided to bring it because there was a structure we could implement. So all the data objects were mapped that were subject of data migration, and we had set data owners among business. So who are the data owners? And then we defined who would be the people validating within business that the migration and the data that was migrated is there, the data they need is there. So we decided it's business plus IT validating, and we decided for each data object who are the relevant people. So this was a kind of an effort for the very beginning to set up the structure for data management testing approach, how we want to do it. But then it really got easy with Cloud ALM, because what we initially spent time to set up, we could easily then copy into new test phases. So simply copy-paste test plans. And if there is a change, like what happens, one person leaves the company, changes the department, really small changes from one testing phase to another. And what we did is always use the same structure. So at the first testing phase of data migration, so data load 2 was the first time that our business was asked to validate, and internal IT to validate if the data migration was done correctly. And they obviously found a lot of business partner topics and all these things. So there were many things reported as still missing, still not sufficient, still, and so on. Users had some time to grasp on the structure, how they are asked to validate data. So if they do random sample testing, how many samples? Do I check all fields if it's master data? How do I count? And content comparison and all. But by the second time, so which was our data load 3, we basically got no questions asked anymore. So it was easy. So they already passed through the test execution once. They understood now the structure. They understood what's asked of them. We simply copy-pasted test plans, and data load 3 and 4 were basically already just analytics follow-up. So should we remind someone that they still haven't executed before the deadline, or I don't know, so any other issues like this. But already everything was clear to the users, and it was really good approach, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely great to see that you are following best practice and reuse data that we already have. So this was also the initial intention inside of test management, to reuse, for example, the activities that you have already documented inside of your diagrams, inside of your processes, and reuse it, for example, for test management. We have now done all of this preparation work, but I'm now interested in how you have picked up the testers to that part, because of this is also sometimes a kind of challenging, because of typically it's not enough to just write an email to the tester and said, you can start with the test, right, Maria?
Yeah, correct. So typically project members are complaining about not being informed. So you never hear them complaining about they were over-informed, so you cannot over-communicate. So what we got as a feedback from time to time, like, when's our next test phase? When am I supposed to, am I now tester for data, or am I what should I be doing? So typically they have questions like, I'm not aware, I'm not informed. So my overall impression, you cannot over-communicate, but even if which is something that we had a case, like we planned 6 months in advance because of vacation periods, yeah? We have vacation periods, and we had to set up 6 months in advance a time slot for one of the important testing phases. And we booked venues, we booked people time and everything, and simply one of the data migration wasn't going as planned, and our testing phase had to be postponed. And this is something that you need to work with on any project, yeah? So things change, so you need to stay on top of that, not get too frustrated, and obviously, because you need to calm your users down, yeah? So we can do it, we can make it, we can shift the dates, no problem, so we find a way. But in this, you cannot over-communicate. However, if you bring all the information all at once, it will not stick with the users. So we had the onboarding, which was done August last year. And even if we talked about different functionalities in Cloud ALM, typically they remember 1 or 2, or some only part of this. So you need to take care that from the onboarding point up till the time that they actually use Cloud ALM, there is a time period. They don't use Cloud ALM every day, and the information will not stick in their heads, yeah? So I'm I would suggest always sprints in this way. And what we did actually to stay on top of every test phase, so there were some email communication in between to know just on a high-level plan, so when's the next testing phase expected? When are you, as a business user, expected to participate? However, then for each test phase, we had kind of kickoff meetings. This we did in a meeting round. You can do it other way, of course. But the meeting was important. Of course, you need program management support. Management support always helps, yes, because business users have their daily works, but they need to understand the importance of the next testing phase. But we also had each time the information presented to them like in a summarized way, so kind of reminder of what we already trained you to do. So this is how you do it, and these are the 2 slides you need to refer back to. Plus, it was always like something new came up in the meantime. So in June last year, just 1 week before our integration testing, sequencing came. So we need to put this to our business testers, yeah? And something that worked very, very well for us in terms of having the highest possible execution rate were closing meetings. Typically, we would organize them 2 or 3 days before the end of the official end of the phase, and by that time you have like 60–70% execution, because everyone is waiting for the last days to finish something. Yeah, so these meetings were really helpful, and you could expect that in the next 2 days, basically if you show the analytics, and no high preparation expected from our part, we just opened Cloud ALM, opened analytics, yeah? These are our execution rates. We have set the view for this testing phase, we set everything up front, and it's really, yeah, on a click available. See which test plans were executed, which ones were not. Okay, you have problems, do you think you will finish? And typically, we have everything done then in the next 2 days. So this was kind of a way of keeping them informed, but also pushing in the right direction, users. And obviously providing the information if you are a business user from one department, you have no clue about the issues that happened in the finance department, so this was also one of the communication methods about project overall and what we found. Did we find any critical defects, issues, or small ones that we can easily resolve and so on?
That reminds me a little bit on Christmas, which is already around the corner. So this is your reminder to get the first gifts for Christmas, because of typically we are also waiting until the last week before Christmas, and then you have to buy any gifts at the fuel station or something like that. Don't do this. We have now seen how you have prepared your testing, how you have done your testing, how you have informed your testers. And now I'm a little bit curious about what are your key takeaways from it. Because of typically when you run through this project, then you will see some obstacles, you see some mistakes. And what can you give to our other customers which are using test management inside of Cloud ALM, what they can do better?
We have just finished the last testing phase on our project. So next is cut over and go live, so very near. And key takeaways from our side. So what were the biggest obstacles that we saw in practice? Staying on top of changing requirements, this is one of the things. So typically, there are changes like mentioned, and test management will not be always, because there are many, many meetings, yeah? Whether regular weekly meetings, stream meetings, just consultants meeting on the project or something like this, so you cannot stay on top of everything. But it's important to keep this loop alive, yeah? So life cycle management, SAP Signavio, and Cloud ALM. And this was an obstacle, that's something that can be resolved, yeah? What we saw challenging is we had user acceptance testing in parallel in 3 locations. So this is extensive and exhausting a bit because you need to stay on top. We are talking about end-to-end testing. So where you have more departments working in a sequence. One is expected to execute test A, and then we switch to test B, and so on. And you need to share information, it's live, and it's in 3 locations in parallel. So what we found as a good solution was introduce local coordinators to stay on top, because a person gets sick. Obviously, your user acceptance testing cannot be stopped due to something like this. So you need to stay on top of the schedule of the persons and coordination, definitely. What we saw in Cloud ALM, affecting Cloud ALM, is that even if we train business users, they will always make mistakes. So, yeah, your task is to minimize them by bringing templates, by seeing where they struggle, and how you can make it more simple. But in the end, in our case, it was, yeah, you need to tag your defects, and we had to check still daily, yeah, because they tagged the wrong team, they didn't put the right responsible person that we trained them to, and so on. So this is normal, but this is something influencing your analytics usage. So otherwise, what you get as a result on analytics will not work and not represent correct data. And what we saw last as an issue for this scenario testing, specifically for end-to-end testing, is that Cloud ALM was not providing us a transparent picture. And by this, I mean that when we have scenario testing, where sequence testing, normally the second person testing test B needs to have data output from the first test. So they need the number of the sales order, they need the number of the production order, master data, obviously. And Cloud ALM was not convenient for them. So as a Google company, which is obvious from this, so BizLink Group is heavily reliant on Google. We use Enterprise Plus licenses and trying to teach our employees to use Gemini in their daily work and so on. So we decided to go with Google Tracker file for end-to-end testing specifically. So data management testing, regular single functionality testing, all this could be done simply and only in Cloud ALM. But for end-to-end process testing, we use trackers as a helping tool to coordinate, stay on top, share information. And as well, we use additionally Space as a quick communication tool, because if you're sitting, we are currently in the user acceptance phase, and we are sitting in 2-3 rooms, we have some consultants online, so typically you don't want, if you run into an issue, the consultant should maybe fix it in 15 minutes, maybe it's a simple problem, so we don't need to report a defect, go through the really defect creation process in Cloud ALM. So they could quickly solve something, or the consultants goes back and says to user, yeah, please write a defect, because this will take me some time to solve. I cannot solve it that quickly, so we want to have it traceable in Cloud ALM. And we go back to defect. So these were the obstacles that we faced. And one thing that then we saw, or more things that we saw as positive as well, on a positive side. So after almost now more than a year actually using Cloud ALM, we did a survey among our testers in June. Actually, before user acceptance testing, we wanted to make sure that we have, like, okay, did Tracker work for you? How do you like Cloud ALM? Can you easily navigate through this one? It was already like 10 months that they were using Cloud ALM at that point that we asked them to fill out a survey for us. And one of the feedbacks we got is that 21% of them said, yeah, Cloud ALM not so easy. And the reasons for this one were that first, normally many of them are not using Cloud ALM frequently. If you are a data tester, you maybe use Cloud ALM once in 2 months or something like this. So then obviously some of the knowledge is lost in between. You need some time to navigate the tool and so on. But most of the comments actually from those who said not so easy were related to defects. And this was more actually to the usage than to the functionality in Cloud ALM, because they were kind of annoyed that the defects were just like ping pong between, user, then one developer says, this other person needs to take care of this, then it goes back to you to retesting, you say, no, this is not sufficient, and so we had defects that were ping-ponging between consultants and business users and kind of got some of the users frustrated, but we could address this with some additional trainings or, let's say, business users were not happy that consultants are talking too technical, giving them back comments that are too technical, they can not understand in business terms. So this helped us overall, the generated feedback from this survey helped us improve Cloud ALM usage afterwards. And then it resulted really in positive outcomes. So this survey actually helped us. We could, with the new functionality now, there's 5 last comments available and easily visible in the defects. We could translate some of the new options also to our users and like creating defect templates, for instance, which reduce the number of mistakes with tags and improve the analytics overall. And what the users themselves now commented after user acceptance testing is because now it has been a few months that they are getting to know Fiori interface in S4HANA, and they say, the navigation is the same, so I can find things in the same place in Cloud ALM and in S4HANA. So we now think that the fact that they have worked with Cloud ALM for a while will help them actually adopt Fiori, so S4HANA in general. And what we saw is we were really impressed actually with some of the users. So these were not the occasional but active users in Cloud ALM that did business process testing, data validation, retesting, defect reporting and all over. You were really impressed and you saw that it's a certain percentage, it's not all users, but you could really see the way that they've gone in this 1 year already. So that they are really navigating quickly, finding things quickly, they can do things on their own, not needing to come back to us with questions anymore. So tags, filtering, all these options, finding data, setting views for themselves. So this is now something that we see and it's really positive. And analytics was definitely adopted all over. So not all the users used analytics. We've used it heavily to share progress everywhere, but also program management and management in general appreciated the fact that you can really on-click have whatever. So where are we with defects? How many of them are high priority ones? What team, who is working, what are the planned dates, and so on. So the data that we could extract in really just, or provide them and give them immediately, or they can access on their own, So without us, of course, and this is one of the definitely positive things that we see, and that some of them are saying, comparing to Excel testing, some years ago, that's definitely a major improvement point.
Yeah, great feedback. Thank you for the key takeaways. It will definitely help our customers who are maybe already using Cloud ALM and test management inside of it. Since last ALM Summit, we have doubled the active customer for test management inside of SAP Cloud ALM to 1,600 customers. Really short, because we have just 1 minute left. What do you recommend to these Cloud ALM starters?
We mentioned some of them, but to summarize then, so take your time preparing, definitely my advice, because people need some time to digest a completely new tool, to get accustomed to completely different new navigation to any other tool that they are using at that point. So take your time in onboarding. And the more time you spend in advance, definitely you will spend less later correcting mistakes or helping them execute something. And what I would recommend to decide in advance is what functionalities you want to use from the very beginning in order not to confuse them. Because there are many options in Cloud ALM, but you need to be transparent to your business users. What are those that they should use? What tiles, apps they should set up? And obviously, when new things are coming in deployment every Wednesday, not all are relevant for then your tenant and your projects. So you need to find a way how you communicate and bring to your users the relevant ones.
Super cool. Thank you,
Thanks.
Maria, for the insights. It will definitely help a lot of our customers in terms of test management. So 1,600 are working already with this. So I'm pretty impressed what you did. And yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to come to you, or to me, maybe.
Yeah.
Even if I was not involved in a project, I'm also open to questions regarding test management in SAP Cloud ALM. Thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you.
And yeah, see you later at the coffee machine, maybe.
Thank you.